The time is just gone 20 minutes to 9 a.m. as we continue with news and views this morning. And our focus now is going to be on Haiti. We're talking about gang violence on the increase, but also at the same time impacting on the hunger, impacting on the World Food Program, talking about this worsening violence, making it extremely difficult for transport. And more importantly, transporting much needed foodstuff and other aid to the people of Haiti. We're joined by a research associate at the African Center for the Study of the United States at the University of Witswatersrand. We're joined by Gideon Chitanga. Gideon, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, let's just talk about this problem in Haiti. We're talking about gang violence escalating, hunger worsening, and the United Nations is deeply concerned, Gideon.
Yes, good morning. I think it's important to give a bit of a context to the situation in Haiti. What we know is that last year the president of Haiti was assassinated, and that triggered a political crisis. So Haiti is an interim, a quasi-interim government. A sitting prime minister who is disputed, whose mandate is disputed. There are serious political problems which have led to disruption of political institutions, if you like. The, the current political authority is contested by different factions. So this is a badly divided society where the political system and political institutions have basically collapsed. And because of that, you find that the country is so divided, and political authority has been hijacked by a variety of drug lords who are now at the center of political violence. And at the moment, the country is desperately in need of international aid because the economy has also collapsed. The state of law and order has collapsed. But the control of drug lords is so effective and organized in such a way that it has worsened to the point where they control the streets of the main cities, denying people access to the basic needs that would be provided by international aid. And given this context, one wonders how can this be resolved? The other major factor to think about is that Haiti is one of the probably earliest countries to attain its freedom in 1804 from colonial authority, coming with the liberation of slaves. If you consider the history of slavery, from the Spanish, the British, and later on French colonial authority. And there are suggestions that the terms of liberation for Haiti, he committed the country into paying France about 24 billion US dollars, which, considering that the country is too small and considering its economy, has meant that over a century plus, Haiti has to pay the whole of its budget to foreign countries, and making it one of the poorest countries in the world as it is referred to. So a combination of persistent political conflicts, the earthquakes, or if you like, natural disasters, and declining economy has thrown Haiti into a ditch that has now left it in the situation that it is.
Yes. Now, it is clear that someone needs to intervene, Gideon, from what you've described, with the criminal element being opportunistic and also at the same time taking advantage of this dire situation. And at this point in time, I'm not too sure, and perhaps you can clarify this issue in terms of the type or the nature of intervention that is required, because when we're talking about large parts of the population being cut off from the economic heart of the country, when we're talking about these armed gangs blocking roads, leading to the peninsula cutting of millions of people, from getting much needed food and humanitarian assistance. How does one actually, address this issue, and what sort of interventions are needed?
So I think it's a difficult situation, and one has to, when you look at the country, you ask yourself, where do you start from? Because the problems are deep rooted, and they are historical in nature. Eh, but I would say that this is a typical conflict situation where, in my view, eh, you have to start with the Haitians themselves. You have to start with the people. You have to start with the citizens. And the question is, how do we bring the different factions, first the political factions, to establish some kind of a legitimate political authority? And once you have some kind of legitimate political authority, you can then look at how you can address the economic problems, the social problems. How do you deal with the violence? So, in very, very short, specific ways, I'm thinking of other political conflict situations. And for me, the beginning point is some kind of a dialogue that can bring together the political authorities in Haiti on the table to legitimately find a way out of their crisis. And this could take a form of dialogue processes that include the current political authority, the sitting prime minister, although his legitimacy is minimal and contested and disputed. It's important to acknowledge that the current government offers some semblance of an authority which can at least stay or divide negotiations. What is the problem is that there is also a dispute. The current prime minister who succeeded the assassinated president, he has proposed that Haiti should go to elections, and these elections should be key in solving the current problems. But other institutions and other actors feel that Haiti's problems are deeper, so they are proposing a constitutional process. They are proposing some kind of an interim government to troubleshoot the problems, and such a government would sit for about 2 years and facilitate a constitutional process, then new elections which should be free and fair and lead to the establishment of a new government. So these are civic forms, civil society formations. They also form a kind of a kind of institutional base that could be part of this dialogue. But in any dialogue, I think it is very important to have a dialogue that is more inclusive, more broad-based, so that its legitimacy won't be disputed, and then the country it does not continue in a cycle of problems. So I would say, between the current government, between active civil society formations, there is need to consider other social formations to broaden and create a kind of a huge conference where Haitians can sit together and map a way forward that is broadly acceptable. But that work needs the international political will, the regional political will within the Caribbean, amongst the Caribbean states, to support such a process. It requires a lot of money, funding to support the political process itself, but also to start to look at money to reboot the economy so that it's functional. In addition to regularizing processes of law and order, so that the aid that we can talk about can be accessed by the citizens of Haiti. So I take it that Haiti is an urgent crisis, and for us in Africa, Haiti is basically a country, one of the Latin American countries whose population is black. If you want African, I think key leaders, including the African Union, should be thinking of engaging with countries in the Caribbean, engaging with Spain, Britain, and France, which are the former colonial powers in Haiti, and engaging the international community to help Haiti to move forward and to establish some kind of order which allows it to transition into normalcy.
Well, Gideon, thank you very much for that, for unpacking what you have. We certainly will be following developments in Haiti. We will be watching the space. But for now, we thank you. We appreciate you taking time out, talking to us this morning on News and Views right here on Salam Media. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Gideon Chitanga with us on the crisis in Haiti this morning. The time is just gone 10 minutes to 9. We come back. We'll be joined by Imtiaz Sayed. We're talking the weekly edition of Crime Talk.